Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Baat Kardi. Before we begin today, I would just like to wish a very, very happy Ramadan Kareem to everyone across the globe who is um, partaking. Um, Ramadan, for those who are unaware, is a Muslim month, well, not Muslim month, rather, um, but it is basically a month in the Islamic calendar where Muslims fast between 29 to 30 days from sunrise to sundown. The general idea is to remind us to be thankful of all that we have and to put ourselves in a more humble and down to earth state, so as not to take the blessings that we've been given for granted, and just remind ourselves that sometimes patience and withholding is important and not just be so caught up in our worldly pleasures that we lose sight of what's actually important. So we during our fast, we don't eat or drink anything at all. Yes, that includes water. So yeah, that's basically the general gist of it. Um, During Ramadan, we try to focus more on worship and prayer. Um, it's a time where it's said that the devil is just locked back in hell. Um, and during this time, you have the best opportunity to clean up your act and just be better, do more good deeds, and yeah, just like be a better Muslim and be a better human as a result. Um, Anyways, so today's episode is going to be a little specific because it's mainly going to be just about life away from home, celebrating Ramadan, whatever, on your own, and just, trying to get used to a life on your own because that can have its own, whole thing. So yeah, this is my first Ramadan away from family. I have never had an opportunity where I wasn't around my family to celebrate. This is my, like this is my first time living away from family, so it's like it's a whole thing that I'm having to get used to. Um, and it's certainly like it's certainly a challenge, because I'm so used to a certain kind of lifestyle that not having it during a time that is so centered around community and being with loved ones, and it's a bit of a trip. So basically there are two, for my non-Muslim listeners, there are two basic things for Ramadan. You have your iftar, which is the meal you eat to open the fast, and then you have seher, which is or sehri, which is the meal you have right before you close your fast. So more often during sehri, you're supposed to have fattier, heavier foods that will keep you sustained throughout the day, and have water or just, like water heavy foods so that you're not dehydrated and you don't get thirsty. Um, More often than not, though, you will end up getting hungry at some point because in most cases you're fasting at least like around 12-ish hours or so. Um, so it's bound to happen, but you try to have foods that are said to keep you full for longer periods rather than just foods that won't really last you beyond a couple of hours. And for iftar, because you're finally eating after not having eaten the whole day, usually we're gonna have a little more indulgent food if it's available. For example, back in Pakistan, we have this tradition of having either like soft drinks, or we have this traditional drink called ruafza, which is like a rose syrup, which is either made in milk or in water, and that's chilled and like with ice and all. It's lovely, especially after you haven't drank anything all day. So we have soft drinks, ruafza, and then we have fried items like pakode. Pakode are basically a staple in many Pakistani households, and they're made a couple of different ways. So they're battered and fried potatoes, um, different mixed vegetables. You have some with pulses, dal, um, quite a few different kinds of ways to make pakode. My favorite kinds are potatoes. So it's literally just like slices of potatoes battered and fried, and they're just one of the most indulgent and luxurious things to have right after you've been fasting because it's fried food and it's potatoes, who doesn't love potatoes? Um, so yeah, it's just this really cool thing. Um, so I'm recording this on the day of the second rosa, so like the second fast. And last night for iftar, I basically opened my meal with some dates. I had some strawberries, I had some water, and I was cooking food for um, for iftar and dinner. And it took a little bit more time than I was planning it to, but that's fine. That happens sometimes. And as I was, just like sitting down to eat, I took like a little, like I took a little picture of my bowl of fruits, and it didn't hit me in the moment, but it did later down the line that you know these things that we often take for granted, and I'm especially saying this to like kids coming from South Asian families, and I can't speak for the Arabs, but I know most South Asian Muslims will relate to this, that we're so used to sitting on a table that's just filled with, blessings. We'll have so many different things, and apart from the food, also is just being centered around loved ones, whether they be friends or family. And part of Ramzan is the community and just, being surrounded by good vibes, good people, and good energy, because there's this sort of there's this I can't quite explain it, but there's this energy in the air right after a fast. Everything seems so calm, so peaceful, because everyone is just now jovial, everyone's had something to eat, they're not hungry anymore. And it just feels really, really nice being around people in that moment. I opened my fast, and everything was fine. I finally got to eat, and I was thankful. I was thankful that I had survived another day and that I had so many blessings to a point where I could just be in a completely different country but still maintain this sort of appreciation for my religion that I feel like sometimes is difficult to have for many other people for a number of reasons. And then I did unfortunately end up getting a little bit sad because I was reminded of the things that I was missing out on back home, because I spoke to my mom and she told me what they'd had for iftar, and it did get to me a little bit, just because I was like, oh, you know, I really wish I was there. I really wish I could have had that. And more than anything, for like in this kind of moment, I do miss my mom, and I miss my friends, I miss my family, just entirely, I guess, because I don't know, something just about moments where you're supposed to be sharing with others, doing them alone, it gets a little bit to you after a while. But when I sent my mom the picture of the food bowl, she was like, "But see, even though you're missing out on things, like you should say Alhamdulillah." So like, thanks to God that even so far away, even when you don't have as much as you would normally, you still get to open your fast with the things you love. And I was like, yeah, yeah, you're right. Alhamdulillah for that, that I have the opportunity to be so far away, but still have access to the things I love. I can still readily have biryani whenever I like. I have to cook it, but it's there. I have access to the fruits I really love. And it doesn't seem as straightforward sometimes, but it's worth considering. Now, it I'm not just saying this to sort of placate you guys, especially those who are finding it difficult or have found it difficult to be away from family, because it's not easy, right? I know people who move away for masters, for work, or just generally for like better opportunities from family, and they find it super difficult because that's all they've ever known. They've only ever been with family, and I completely understand, especially when it comes to these sorts of moments where you find yourself just uncertain, sitting a world away. There's nothing to know, there's nothing to do. It's just be, and you keep going day after day, day after day, and you just hope for the best. But yeah, I think Ramadan or Ramzan, whatever, God, I think the idea of Ramzan away from family is a humbling experience, but it's also an opportunity to practice something that many adults don't realize, is that when you grow up, you have the opportunity to find a family of your own, and that doesn't necessarily need to be a family that you're related to by blood. I am a huge, huge believer and supporter of the idea of a found family, because to me, your friends can be just as much your family as those you're related to by blood. Because what is family, right? Family are people that you depend on. Family are people that you go to in times of distress. Family are people who will celebrate with you in times of joy. But family is who will stand up with you when everyone else is against you. And I think when you have nothing else, finding a family of your own that will be by you when no one else is something that every adult should at one point or another in their life consider, because I think it can really change your perspective, and I feel like it can really, I wouldn't say it can make missing home better, because that's its own separate thing, but it can certainly dull the pain, if nothing else. Um, for me, I have wonderful friends who regularly check in on me from back home, and they're my found family. You know, um, we have a whole mix and match of different personalities, different types, different love languages, all that you can think of. But it's really nice to know that irrespective of our beliefs, irrespective of our upbringing, the one thing that we all share is a care for each other. So, for those unaware, Islam has a bunch of different sects that um, people follow, of course, and each sect has their own slight deviations on what their belief system is. I'm not going to jump into that at this point, but basically, so you have the two main sects, which are Sunni and then Shia. Sunni people open their fast right as the azan, the call to prayer, goes off for Maghrib, which is um, the prayer, like the prayer after like the sun goes down. Whereas for Shias, we usually wait 10 to 15 minutes after, just to make sure that there's no light outside. The idea behind that is just to ensure that if there is any deviation in time, or something goes up and down, you're basically in the clear and you didn't break your fast early. So, um, there during Ramzan, there's quite a few people that like to make reels and make jokes about the fact that when Sunnis and Shias go out to eat for iftar, the Sunni opens his fast 10-15 minutes early, and they just start eating. And by the time the Shia's fast finally opens, the Sunni's already done eating, or like they've eaten everything in that time. And a friend of mine actually sent me that reel, one of my really close friends. And I could very smugly reply, but I've never had that problem. I have great friends. So yeah, and this has been the thing since like childhood, where my friends came over for iftar. I remember this very distinctly. So each Ramzan, um, my family and I have like a big iftar for like family and only close friends, and even that is like a rarity. It's mostly just family. Um, and I remember I invited two of my best friends home for the first time for something like this. Uh, and it was my best friends from childhood, Abdullah and Arsalan. And I remember very distinctly that, they had opened their fast, but I was telling them to, start eating or whatever. And I think they didn't really, I think they may have taken like something in their plates, but I think they hadn't started eating because they wanted to just like wait for us. I don't know if it was just the peer pressure, the fact that they were surrounded by so many other people that just wouldn't be eating, or, if it was the fact that they actually felt like that they should wait. But it's been something that I have noted that so many other friends over the years have done as well. That if we're out to eat, they will wait with me, um, as much as like reasonably possible, and often sometimes beyond reasonable as well. And it's little things like that that really make you feel welcomed and make you feel loved, because they don't need to do that. They are very well allowed to eat. They can properly just get comfortable, start drinking water or whatever. Just be okay. But they just to wait. They just open their fast, like they have a date or whatever. Just open the fast itself, and then they just wait. And to me, that is one of the most sincerest forms of love that I've ever felt from someone that wasn't related to me by blood. And it's something I sorely miss when I'm here. I don't know when I'm going to see my friends again. I don't know when I'm going to get to experience love that they share with me in moments like this, because it does get difficult sometimes, guys. Not gonna lie. Like, we're only on day two, but I really do miss the things back home. I miss the vibe of everyone just being a little bit extra cranky because they've been fasting. I miss the smell of the fried foods around iftar time just being sold around like different bakeries and stuff like that. I miss coming home and just helping my mom set the table, because it was something that really allowed me to just be, I don't know, it was just something like I liked doing with my mom, just helping out, even when she was a little bit like a little bit stressed out and she was getting a little angry at me. But it was things like that that really just made me feel just normal, I guess, and the sense of normalcy that I don't really have in my life right now. The lack of a proper routine, just running back and forth between class, sometimes having to cook, and just not having the energy, but knowing that I need to, because otherwise I need to go out to eat, and that's just a lot more expensive. And that's one meal. If I cook, that's like 2 3 days. I'm okay, you know. So it's one of those experiences that I can't really explain to someone unless they have been through it themselves. But Ramzan away from home is no joke. I have friends who are doing their first year away from family. I have friends who are having their third year away from family during this time. And honestly, I salute them, because no matter how much time passes or no matter how many times you do it, I don't think it gets easier. I think it gets manageable, and you get better at knowing how to do the things that you would otherwise like to do. And I think that is a skill that is just lost on so many people. So many people just wallow in the lack of what they have. And I think that's just not right. And I think that also goes against what Ramzan is about as well. To me, Ramzan is about always being thankful, always trying to just remember that if things had gone differently, you may not have had anything. If things had gone differently, you would be in a much different position than you are now. So it's a time to remember all of your blessings, be thankful for your blessings, and try to give back. And just, I don't know, like, I feel like within the Muslim community, we all have this joke that we have seasonal Muslims, people who will just try to clean up their act during Ramadan. And I'll admit it, unfortunately, I have definitely partook in some of those jokes. But over the years, I've realized just how insensitive that is because, unfortunately, we never know anyone's circumstances, right? People struggle with religion for any number of reasons. And if just for this little bit of time, they find the strength within themselves to come back and just try to be better. I think that's not something that we should be shaming them for. It's something we should be appreciating them for and hoping and praying that they find the strength and find the ability to continue beyond this period as well. Because to me, that is the spirit of Ramzan, that everyone gets second chances, everyone gets an opportunity to be better and to continue again. That's just my take. Um, but I know it is something that a lot of people understand and also sympathize with as well because unfortunately there are so many people in this world that will judge others for the way they sin without acknowledging that they sin as well. We're all sinners. We all sin in different ways. It gives none of us the ability to judge. There's only one person who's going to judge us, and that is beyond our understanding, beyond our control. You don't get to do that. So, this Ramzan, I will try my best to be thankful, to give back as much as I can in kindness, in tolerance, in love, in peace. Um, I will try not to all over the idea of missing home too much because this has, I feel like I've sort of been like leading up to this point, like I feel like for the last week or so, I've now been getting homesick. And it's been something that's kind of been weighing on me, but I didn't realize or I didn't understand what it was that was causing these sorts of feelings. But with Ramzan, I feel like it kind of makes sense that maybe it was this, maybe this is what my body was trying to tell me that, oh, this big thing is happening. And usually during this time, we're in such a different environment, we're in such a warm environment, and we're feeling so many things, some positive, some negative, but like we're feeling more, whereas here it's just, I'm not gonna say it's doom and gloom, but it's just different, you know like I look outside my window right now and it's just cloudy, it's gray, and I'm pretty sure it's been raining since I've been recording this. Life takes us all down different paths and different roads that we don't necessarily know where they're going to lead. But whatever ends up happening, I hope anyone that's listening to this finds it within themselves to accept that sometimes things won't work out, but in the end, things have to work out, right? There's no other outcome that I see. Muslims have this idea that your risk or like your reward or your destiny is preordained. I believe that there is an idea that while yes, God has written your destiny for you, you have the ability, you have the free will to ensure you get to that point. The way I see it is, right, let's say there's three doors that are good, but the good decreases as you go down. After the third door, the bad starts, goes down, and then from least bad to most bad, and so on and so forth, right? Your actions dictate which door you go through. So while there are options, your actions lead to where you actually end up. So while there is some sense of things being pre-written, I don't believe that they're preordained the way we believe them to be. So there is free will, there is choice, and there is opportunity for you to clean up your act, get better, and just find things for yourself. If you've been struggling, then take this as your sign that your struggle is not forever. Things will change, but you need to be the change that you want to see in your life first, because things aren't as straightforward as they seem sometimes. Sometimes we do need to put in the hard work, and we do need to put in the hours, and sometimes it's just gonna be difficult until it's not. But yeah, whatever you are in this world, I am sending you love. Wherever your path is leading, I am wishing you luck. And wherever you end up, I am sending you appreciation. And yeah, thank you so much for joining in today. This was one of the most unstructured episodes ever. I feel like I didn't really even talk about the idea that I had in my mind and the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about in this episode. But I feel like this is just one of those things that I just needed to get out of my system in some capacity, shape, or form, because those that are going through something right now, I feel like they're gonna get the idea. They're gonna get the message. And if it makes sense to even one person, I think that is a good enough, thing for me. And coincidentally, or not, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I just say things, you guys. Whatever. This is going to be the longest episode of Baat Kardi so far. So yes, a little bit of change of pace and a little bit of a longer of an episode, but I hope that still appeals to you guys, and I sincerely hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Um, just another shout. Like always, Baat Kardi is out on all podcasting platforms on Friday. So that is your Spotify, your Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Google, wherever you get your podcasts from. And then the video, which you are hopefully watching right now, goes live on YouTube on Saturdays. We don't have a specific time, but just throughout the day, you're randomly going to get a notification for an episode, because, of course, you have notifications turned on YouTube. So the bell icon is there. For other podcasting platforms, I'm hoping and sure that you have followed already, so you have notifications there as well. So you'll know when a new episode is out. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. And I will see you all in the very next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.